Hello, welcome back to OConnor Racing. Today what we're going to do is we're going to rebuild a 1985 Suzuki RM125 crankshaft. I guess a lot of times you can buy full cranks from Weisco already produced. This doesn't happen to be the case with this crankshaft, so we're going to have to change the connecting rod in this. I got a Pro X connecting rod. If I have a preference, they're definitely the ones. I like the Pro X rods. And I'll show you what to look for in some of these old crankshafts. First thing that we see, and we always inspect the ends, the threads. You can even see this on the camera. This is way out. Unfortunately, a lot of disassemblies don't happen the way they're supposed to, and a hammer comes into play. We see this stuff all the time. Makes my job a little bit tougher as far as getting this thing lined up. But you know, it is what it is. I talked to the customer about it, and he said to go ahead and do it anyway. The other thing is this part of the crankshaft is worn. There's a gear that goes on here. This is on the clutch side. And again, I'm not crazy about it, but the customer knows about it, and he said go ahead and rebuild it. So, you know, just a word of caution. When you're disassembling your motor, you know, avoid a hammer at all costs. It's just not the right way to take these apart. You want to use some type of puller. Or a lot of times you can make one. They're pretty easy to make, but you know, never pound these crankshafts out. It's just bad news. And what scares me the most is we're going to rebuild this, send it out, and unfortunately, someone's probably going to pound it in, which makes all our work on our end pretty much useless. Anyone that follows my my videos on my YouTube channel, OConnor Racing, knows I have a jig that we built in here for assembling crankshafts, and this is a prime candidate, and I can use that jig on this. But it's kind of unique. This crankshaft has these holes here. These aren't for balance. It's actually for alignment, and probably something Suzuki used back in the day to make these things go together fast. And we're going to copy. How they did that, and show you a little trick. This is just a center punch that I have. I have a whole set of these. They range in diameters, and this just happens to fit in this hole pretty good. Yeah, just add it. There we go. So I'm going to use this method to align this crankshaft once I get it split. I finished with the disassembly and took the old connecting rod out, and what we're going to talk about next are a couple of the wear items on the crankshaft and stuff to look for. This crank didn't suffer from catastrophic failure. In other words, it didn't blow apart and smash things, but there's definitely some wear in it. And the first thing is the pin that goes between the two webs. What happens with these is the bearings right here, they'll get little flat spots in them after a while, and especially if you let them sit. If you let them sit, and it's not, you should winterize anything anyway, but it'll get corrosive material will build up on the bottom of the crankshaft, and usually that is in the form of rust, and the bearings will get eaten away at that one point, and that's just the beginning of the end. They're going to get little flat spots on them, and as it rotates, you know, at 10,000 plus RPMs, in this case it's a 125, it's going to wear this pin out. So that's one wear item. Second wear item, these are the thrust washers on the side. These really aren't that bad. When I mic these up, they mic up exactly the same as the new parts that we have here. So really not wear on it, but they are starting to show through with a little bit of their copper. Third item is the cage itself. These cages can actually disintegrate and just spread bearings everywhere. Usually you start to get an oblong rod when that happens. And the last item is inside of the connecting rod, top and bottom. If there's wear here from the bearings, you can't see it very well on the camera, but there's definitely wear in here as well. These are the two crankshaft webs. Just because of the age of this machine, 1985, I usually don't sandblast any of this stuff, but this one needs it. You can tell, especially in here, we're talking about you know, fuel being corrosive and all kinds of other stuff in the bottom of it, and this is all rusted here. I want to get rid of this. One thing you have to watch for also is inside of the webs. This should be a fairly flat surface. This crank never got too out of hand. There's no wear in there that I can see, and we're going to go ahead and clean these up. Well done cleaning up the webs. One thing I will advise, if you're going to this is why I don't like to sandblast stuff in here, but if you're going to sandblast, it is going to leave a slight residue on it. Wire brushing helps to take a lot of that off, And I used brake cleaner after that, and I've got a bunch of little brushes that I went in these holes with, and just make sure you're removing all of that. You don't want that getting into your fresh bottom end. The other thing I did is compared these rods. Different companies, different molds, they're going to be different, but we like to just double check, and if they're off by a mile, I can advise a customer that he may need to do an adjustment for squish or whatever. But I did check the length in here. Even though this rod is worn a little bit, I calculated the wear in the rod, and these things are within a thousandths on length. That's pretty good for two completely different companies. Also, we verified the sides, make sure everything here is the right dimension. Nobody put the wrong rod in the right box that I'm looking for. So we're going to go ahead and put this crankshaft together next. Alright, I got my crank set up in the press, and like I mentioned earlier, we're going to do it different this way. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. I've got this alignment pin in there, and I am not going to press this entire crank together with that pin in. I'm using it as an alignment tool, and that's it, and it's not going to be a final assembly. I'm definitely going to have to knock it around a little bit, but we'll see how close we can get it. Because the ends on this crankshaft were beat so bad, my bench centers are useless, and it's just going to keep picking up run out, because by this being off, it's making the crankshaft run out. So instead of bench centers, what I have is I got a little bearing post. I've got two bearings here, one on each side, and same thing over here, and we're just taking the bearing surfaces of the webs and resting it on that with a dial indicator above it, and that's going to give me a pretty good indication of where I'm at. Right now, this crank is within a half thousandths, a little bit of run out on this side, but the other thing that's neat with this crank is the alignment pins. And I tested it with the pin after assembly, and that pin is sliding through both sides of this crankshaft with just about zero resistance. So I'm confident we've got a good crankshaft here, and I'm going to send this thing to Arizona. Thanks for watching.